And then all right. So tonight's topic is going from what we did 2 weeks ago on carving. And if you weren't here, that's okay. We're going to do a review on that one. And we're going to take some of those concepts into writing powder, specifically Japow. Powder is kind of today's big topic. So this should be pretty fun. If you have questions, please feel free to ask them. It's way more fun with participation. So, but I'm going to start with a screen share. So I'm going to start with that. And boom. So right here, and I'm actually going to throw this in the chat too real quick. So let me throw this thing in the chat here. So chat, I'm going to add a PDF that is what we're looking at. So if you have problems with the links, if they don't go through properly, whatever it is, all the links are going to be here. And the worksheet, essentially, if you can't hear a single word I say, the worksheet kind of runs you through tonight's topic. So that's what it's for. And I spent a long time working on it, so I hope you guys like it. Okay, so here we are from carving to Japow. So right here, just to recap from last week, one of the things that we talked about was inclination and angulation. So inclination, sorry, my thing's running really weird here. Inclination and angulation. So inclination are these red lines right here you can see in this drawing. And then angulation is kind of the angles of our body that we do to stay balanced while inclinating, right? To stay balanced over our base of support. And so in carving, last week we talked about we could inclinate quite a bit because the snow would support us. And so that's the inclination, and that's a combination of angulation to get a really high edge angle and arc a sick carve following the side cut of the snowboard. So that was sort of last week's topic, right? And we go down here, I took a clip of powder and just to kind of expand on it. So this is me making a turn in powder in Japan. This is in Japan in powder from 2020. And if you can see right here, you'll see my snowboard is tilted. You can see the inclination line, the red lines right there sort of show kind of the tip of my snowboard. And if it was, my body was to just stay in a straight line from my snowboard where it would follow. So that would be the inclination. And then the angulation of those yellow lines. So you can see how I'm bending my knees, I'm extending through the hips and arching my back a little bit to stay balanced over my base of support. So my snowboard, right? And the green arrows right here, they kind of dictate a little bit of what we talked about last week. They show the forces. So this is where the force is coming up from the ground. So if I'm pushing at the ground, it's pushing back. And this is where the force is coming down or from my last turn, right? So these are kind of showing those two arrows. That's what that is. So if I go down here, I have a couple questions for you guys. And this is when you guys get to unmute yourselves. We're going to start off right out of it asking questions and you guys get to answer. So first question I have from this image is, well, I guess, has anybody here ever ridden like sick Japow? Has anybody here ever ridden like real blower powder snow before?
Yes.
Yes? Cool. Awesome. Jim, have you ever ridden super sick blower pow snow before?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. That's good. Well, then you need to. You definitely need to. But for one of those things, I want to ask, is anybody here when they were snowboarding or skiing really deep powder, has anybody ever felt like they were carving? They were trying to carve, but their board or skis were just sinking into the snow. Has anybody ever felt that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I've definitely had that in Utah.
All right. And so frequently what the difference is here is our base of support, right? So if you look at this image right here that I posted up of me in Japow making a toe side turn, if you look at my board a little bit, it is edged quite a bit. But if you were just to make some assumptions about what you see where that question mark is, what do you think is supporting my body? Do you think it's the edge or do you think it's more the base of the snowboard? Anybody?
I mean, in theory, I think I would say the base of the snowboard, but actually from the image it looks like, you know, like it's on edge.
Cool, cool.
Visually, it looks like you're still on edge. Like,
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
yeah.
So it's a combination of the two. And that's what we're getting to. So it's a combination of the two. So in carving, we're riding a rail edge, right? And we're trying to stay on that edge and really use that bite to dictate that, to control our turn and create rebound energy. In powder, it's a combination of the side cut of our snowboard. So that still has meaning. But you'll see right here my back foot. You can't see it super well in the image. I can see if I can zoom in here a little bit. Nah, it doesn't help. But my back foot is actually in the snow quite a ways. And so my back foot is supported, has more of the base of the snowboard pressing against snow, while the nose of my snowboard is coming out. And so that's where you kind of see it looks like I'm on edge, but I'm actually in the snow. Now, if I was to weight my board equally, there's a good chance that that turn would just lead me to diving into the snow. My nose would want to go into the snow and I would just go deeper and deeper and deeper. So I have to use a combination of the edge and the base of my snowboard. So, so going down to why, why do I got to do that? Okay. And I know I'm kind of leading up to something here, but I'm covering my bases first. That's what's happening. So going down here, snow science, what makes Japan different? So Japan's snow is famously dry. It's literally 5 to 8% water content and the rest is air. Where when we think about a groomer, it's usually 30 to 50% water content to air or more. So firmer snow is a lot higher water content. So it's compacted. So in Japan, that means that the snow doesn't have the density, or in just powder snow in general, but we're talking Japan right now. So it doesn't have the density. So therefore, for us to float on top of it, we need a bigger surface, right? If you think about it as a bigger surface. And we also end up kind of floating in it sometimes too. So sometimes the surface can't even support our body. So we end up floating in it, where if you look at Siamak right here, you can sort of see that his lower body is pretty much outside of the tips of his skis. The rest of his body's in the snow. You guys all see that? Cool, cool. So I'm going to go to our first clip, and this is going to show, we're going to watch somebody riding the fluffy stuff. Now, if it doesn't play well on my screen going through Zoom, then I encourage you to go to the PDF that I sent you and just load it up on your one of your tabs. But here it is. Oh, that looks like so much fun.
So just to clarify for me as a non, I've only snowboarded twice, I've never done that, is you actually consciously think about standing on the back leg?
We're gonna get into that, but consciously, yeah, I think about driving pressure
Yeah,
downward, right, in the snow. And while I'm doing that, trying to keep the nose or the front of the board up, right? So if
yeah,
I'm pushing down, I push the whole board down. Well, it's just gonna find its way deep into the snowpack, right?
yeah, yeah,
And I don't want that to happen. So
yeah.
that means that I have to, like, when I push down, I have to also pull up at the same time. So
Mm.
that's kind of what we're seeing here, but I'm going to ask you guys some questions about it. So did everybody see this video okay? Did anybody not see it?
Yeah, this runs good on my end. I
Okay,
hope
cool,
everyone's
cool,
too.
cool. So I'm going to go out and pause this one. And so I got a couple questions about it. So with that first rider that we saw, what assumptions, I'm kind of giving it away a little bit, but this is to anybody. So what assumptions can we make about the base of support, aka the snow? What can we see about the snow under his feet? What assumptions can we make about it?
I guess it's really powder. Like, it's not groomer.
Okay.
It was deep. Um, and yeah,
Soft.
just untracked powder.
Yeah, it's on track powder. It's a dream, right? It's cloud.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. So we can assume though it's probably not giving him much back, right? So it's a soft surface. It's a soft surface. That snow looked like it was moved pretty easy under his feet. So even as he was making turns and moving his way through the snow was still like displacing, right? So we know it displaces easy. And there's a lot of air in it. We can see that there's a lot of air in it. So when it comes to feedback, and this goes to somebody else, wrong Schwan, you can't answer this. Somebody else has to answer it. So when it comes to feedback, right? Because a lot of the snowboarding we do is based on what we feel, right? So we feel something from the mountain, we therefore do something else, right? What do you think this rider is experiencing in terms of feedback?
I know, I think.
Okay, fire away.
Um, because the snow is so soft and you have your center of mass going backwards, there is this constant going into the snow and then doing something to get you out of the snow, right? So that you stay on the surface. So there is a shifting of I think there's a shifting of the weight from the back foot to the front foot to the back foot. I hope
Yeah, you're right. And there's a similar move that we would do on skis too. So it's not
right.
from tip to tail or straight down, but
Yes.
you can see our rider here. And I like that you said he's constantly feeling like he's going down. He's going to go down into the snow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Josh, is that so again, biomechanically, you want to surf, it's kind of like you porpoise a little bit, right? The nose goes down a little and you bring it back up. But is the center of mass really changing its position that much?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, and we're going to get to that. That's an awesome observation. That's an awesome observation. So, no. So we can imagine that he feels the snow squishy under his feet, right? So he can feel that soft snow. And so, and it's not giving him much of a push back, right? So sensationally, it feels soft and light under his feet. And so, um, when it comes to staying out of the snow to get out of it, there is a porpoising that takes place, but it's in 3 dimensions, right? So it's not just fore aft, back and forth, nose to tail, but it's vertical. And so that pressure would then be a vertical pressure versus like a sliding the board out in front of him. It would be more of the vertical pressure. But it's, as you said, it's a porpoise, so it's not the same. It could be different, right? So let's watch another rider right here. So you kind of answered my last question right there. It looks like he's porpoising. So how does the rider adapting to stay afloat, turn shape, edge angle, pressure? We can watch it one more time. If anybody wants to add to that, how they see that this rider's adapting, and maybe let's pick on a little bit edge angle, right? So what do you guys see as far as like turn shape or edge angle and how he adapts to this snow? Anybody? Come on, we got a lot of people on the call here. I'm going to start picking on people. Tom, I'm going to pick on you. Rune Bean, Gianchi, Eric, Bitchin's iPhone. I totally Bitchin's iPhone has got to have something to say.
Oh, I see some little jumps.
Yeah, totally. You see jumps, right? So when it comes, you see jumps. So when it comes to like turn shape or edge angle, um, the jumps are part of it. What do you see in terms of like turn shape? What do you see happening there?
I think he adapts to the landscape. Like sometimes
Totally.
he traverses a little bit more.
And his turns are kind of like they're more open, right? So they're kind of like instead of being a carved turn where it really focus on closing that most of the time, they look kind of like they kind of just smear downhill. You see that?
Yep.
Cool, cool. And I'm sorry, I got your name wrong. I read it totally wrong, Chen. I'm so sorry.
You're
uh,
totally okay.
um, so Chen, also, what do you see in terms of edge angle? Do you see like a high edge angle, or do you see it being relatively mellow?
I think relatively mellow.
Yeah, totally. If you look at his turn shape, kind of just the big picture right here, you can see these open turns, and you can see him more or less like pivoting the board, right? So you can see him
Yeah.
pivot and steer the board to make the turns happen, but not so much of a high edge angle to make the turn happen, right?
Yeah.
And even when he's going in a traverse, so he's going across the hill, we don't see a high edge angle. We see it being kind of soft. See that? Kind of flattens out.
Yeah. I guess
Yeah.
in powder, if you have a high angle, you'll probably fall into the snow.
Exactly, exactly. Your board will continue to try to turn, and as it turns, it's going to continue to dive into the snow. So the nose is going to want to follow that turn and dig down into the snow, and we don't really want that. We want to keep the base pressing against the snow. If it's the edge, you can also think of the edge as like, think of the edge as, I'm going to go up so I can make sure you guys can see me when I'm doing this. Okay, so if you think of the edge being like, if it's flatter, it can push snow. If it goes too sharp, it's going to slice into the snow, and therefore it's no longer going to support. The snow is not going to support the board, which supports your body, and it's just going to slice down. So that's a big reason for a lower edge. Cool, cool. Here's another clip. I love this clip right here. This is a fun one. We're done with that one. Here's this one. So this guy is going wild. Let me know if you guys can see this okay.
Yeah. It's good speed too. Yeah.
So when you watch this rider, you can really see that this rider is in the snow, right? Their board is constantly in the snow and out of the snow. Do you guys see that?
Yeah.
Snow's coming up over his body. Yep. So if I go back here, I've got a couple of questions for us. So from the first clip where the rider was on top of the snow and kind of bouncing around to the second clip, what changed in the snow quality from the first rider to the second rider?
It was deeper,
Yeah, it was
and
deeper.
and it was drier too. I
So there was
think.
more air content in the snow, right?
Yeah, it
Yep.
was deep. Yeah.
So now that the rider's in the snow, what effects might his submerged experience have on his riding?
On it. On
Anybody?
his.
Well, I want to say that if I'm in that deep of a powder, and I would be very careful. I mean, it would make me naturally scary to keep a straight line. I would constantly doing small turns to make sure that I'm not speeding up, and um, I guess like I because I'm gonna have snow sprays all around me. Um,
Hmm.
but
Yeah,
that's
you're gonna
just
have snow sprays, so it's gonna be hard to see, right?
yeah.
So that's gonna be one part of the experience. It's gonna be harder to see. And two, when you're in the snow and you're moving your snowboard around, you can't see your snowboard either, right? So you're having to feel how the board is interacting with the ground. And when it's really light like that, you can't feel much, right? And so for this rider, the last video that we watched, he was really active in pulling his in creating pressure to get himself out of the snow so he could get the board to pivot. Another reason he does that too is if he's submerged in snow, that means that the snow is not only affecting his like friction against the base of his snowboard, but he's also got snow pushing against his body, and he's got snow pushing against the sides of his snowboard too. So as his snowboard tries to rotate, um, to pivot in the snow, he's got not only friction from underneath that he's contending with, but also if he rotates that board when it's in the snow, he's going to be pushing snow sideways, almost like plowing it sideways with his body and everything else like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's going to feel those things of the snow pushing him from a lot of different directions, not just underfoot. And I think that that's kind of indicative of like riding Japao. It's one of those really cool things that we experience, but it's also can be a real challenge to manage because it almost feels like you're in a cloud, like you're snowboarding in a cloud. And like, what do? You just go really
And
fast and eventually hope you don't hit anything.
he
But,
and he was in a cloud. I was the one that took that video. He got really close to me. And I'm going, dude,
Mhm.
be careful. He goes, I could not see you. So he was really blinded in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see he gets really close to you in this video. I love it. I love it because you're safe. He didn't hit you. That's why it's fun. If he hit you, it
He,
wouldn't be fun anymore.
he scared me a bunch of times. Now, another thing, since I was there, I did this run, that's probably my track right in front of us. When I did it on my skis, they weren't super wide. I think I was on something like maybe 99 millimeters underfoot, so not super wide. I was not able to spray as much as he did. So what the advantage, and I wish I was on a snowboard because you have that the ability to float more and create this effect of like a train plowing through snow, like that's a really cool effect. I like this a lot.
It is, and it's not just the snowboard too. If you think about the rider's stance, right? So the rider is the snow that he's hitting in front of his body. He's hitting with
Yeah,
the side of his body rather than the like front of his body, right? Like your chest and everything else like that. And so there's a
yeah,
little bit less friction on a snowboard from the front of the snow to the body. There's a little
I
bit
see.
less there.
I see. Yeah.
But it's also
You know, if
sketchy
you
because he's
look,
only got one base of support. So if he screws that up, he's going down.
so the other
So
thing
this
is
is
because of that platform, Josh, he does, and because you're standing like sideways on the board, he can position his body to sort of, it's almost like pushing air. He can push the snow. Where with skis, if we try to make that kind of a short radius completed turn on skis and that, we're toppling. We're going to submarine in and topple.
Yeah. Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I wonder how you can because you still got to get some fore and aft movement, right? You still got to get some way. And I'm going to go into that. I'm getting ahead of
Yeah.
myself. Let's go into the next slide. We saw
All
this.
right.
We're going to go into the next part. So I'm going to go ahead and close that one out. And so our next thing is creating rebound in a cloud, right? So this is, I think, probably the most challenging part, or one of the more challenging parts of riding powder is creating rebound energy, right? And rebound energy, like we saw in carving, rebound energy came from the edge against the snow, the board bending, the board releases, pops us between turns, helps us go from one turn to the next, helps us get a really active release, right? And when you're in a cloud, that can be a lot harder. Um, so here's a video of CMAC right here, creating some rebound energy vertically at Alpine Meadows. So we're going to watch CMAC at Alpine Meadows right here. You guys see that okay?
Yeah. Jim, can you see
Yeah.
that? Yeah, it's actually connection now.
Great.
Do we have, other than Jim and I, are there any other skiers on this call? Please identify yourself.
I think everybody skis a little bit. I got a
Yeah.
skier somewhere in me.
Yeah.
But I think this is still we can use this, we can understand this. So CMAC, this is your video. So tell me a little bit about what you were doing to get from turn to turn. Because I see you moving, I see you doing something to create rebound energy. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, so I am using my ankles and knees to basically lighten myself. You can see my head actually popping up. Um, Maybe that's not totally PSIA, but to get out of that snow, I use my ankles, mostly, primarily my ankles, and then my knees, and then of course that transfers to my hips. I create a platform underneath me, and I use that
Mhm.
platform to pop myself out of the snow.
So when you say platform, I think that's the really interesting part. And we're going to dive into a snowboard video on this too, and then go even further. But we
Okay.
talk about platform. So a platform, if you think about deep powder snow, right? We've got to, in order for us to get up, we need to put pressure down so we have
Yeah.
something to push off of to get us up, right?
Right.
And in powder snow, you're not just standing up to send your body up, but you're pushing down. And by pushing down, you're compacting the snow underneath your feet that allows you to get a strong enough or a hard enough surface to then bring your body up, right? So the two things have to happen. You have to be able to push enough air out of the snow that you can bring your body up. Now, when we carve, we generally increase pressure, not only through extension, but usually it's pretty progressive, right? It's progressive through the turn. And then we can increase our edge angle to increase pressure, right? So increasing our edge angle sharpens the turn and increases pressure. However, in powder, if you were just to increase your edge angle to try to get the snow to compact, there's a good chance you would just auger in. You would dive into the POW and be, your sticks and everything else would be in there, and you'd be digging yourself out, right? So
Yes.
in this moment, it's neither progressive nor is it generated through the edge. If I watch you right here, I would wager that you push your feet down near the end of your turn in almost an explosive moment, right? So you push them down quick, and then you immediately use that energy to change direction. Would you agree?
I agree.
Cool, cool. So I'm glad, because if you didn't agree, then I'd have nowhere to go from here. I'd just be stuck. So
I know some of
there's
the times
CMAC and powder.
I was going to say, Josh, a lot of times we teach powder, depending on the approach and how you want to describe it, but you see CMAC, he's pumping, and that pumping causes that force that you said. So he pumps and he's porpoising.
Exactly, exactly. But I think the part I'm trying to get to is that the porpoise isn't just us moving out of the snow, but we're trying to compact snow underneath our feet.
Correct.
Like that
Yep.
that thoughtful process of like I'm in soft snow and I'm working in 3 dimensions, so I have to push snow down so it pushes me back up, right? And due to this, the design of CMAX skis, because he's in the middle, and if he pushes snow down a little bit more through just through the middle of his feet or even his heels a little bit, his tails are going to go down while his tips go up. And that's going to give him that porpoise move. So that would also be different than if we were to get out of a turn necessarily in carving. We might not try to allow our pressure to go from our heels or from the back of our feet down. That might be more through the center of the feet or even towards the balls of the feet. So like it's a little bit different here in POW because we not only need to create the surface to rebound off of, but when we do, we got to keep the float by keeping the tips of our skis up. And honestly, it's way easier to see when a snowboarder does it. So we're gonna watch a snowboarder do it.
So I have a question. I have a question on that ski video.
Yeah.
Can that be considered as a crossover technique of the last video?
CMAC.
Yes, Tom. It's crossover.
Yeah. So can we actually use the other one, cross under, for riding powder?
You can. Yes. Because if it's fluffy like that, you definitely can. Yes.
I see.
So I guess CMAC in your video, and I'll go back to it right here. Just gonna go to the link here because I already closed it out. So in your video, CMAC, why did you choose a crossover rather than a cross under?
I don't remember why in this case, but generally, I think it takes less energy to a cross under takes more energy and more effort, and it's really not necessary if the conditions are right.
So I think that this is it might be a little bit of a tangent, but I want to go there so everybody knows what crossover, cross under means. So crossover means if the skis were stationary, the body is moving over the skis from left to right.
Yes.
And if the body was stationary and the skis were moving underneath the body from left to right, that would be cross under.
Correct.
Now, if we watch this, it's actually a combination of both. So if you really watch the skier, you can see CMAC move his body into the turn, and then his skis are also moving. They're moving in opposites a little bit. So we can see a crossover and a cross under happening at the same time. So they could argue that both are happening. There's steering of the lower body independent of the upper body, and then there is a movement of the upper body over the skis to get in position to make the next turn. So
yeah, the shorter turns are crossovers, and the ones that are a little bit wider gives me more time to do the cross under.
Can we
So
can
we
we
have a
say
hybrid term for that as well, cross through.
Ooh, I like it. I like cross through. Let's just always do cross through. Unless we're doing like a dumb drill or something, let's just always consider them cross through. Those are way more fun.
One more comment. Was it Tong? Were you going to add something?
Oh yeah, so is this generally preferred or more less effort to use crossover for ski and
No.
most extended term for snowboard on powder?
For snowboard or for skiing?
Like crossover for ski and the most extended term for snowboard.
I would, well, I
I
wouldn't
mean,
say
is
would be a
that
preferred way.
right.
It's, as you
Like
can see,
less or
it's a
less effort?
combination. Well, yeah, you decide, you learn both. And as your experience level goes up, where you will just automatically do whatever is the right thing to do in that moment. Uh, um, uh, I don't really think about it that much anymore. It just happens.
Got it.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, Tom, um, I think that for me, and we'll get to some snowboarding here in a second, but I think for me, when it comes to a most extended turn, right, or a crossover turn, and those two, you can use these terms together, you can use them separately. They don't necessarily mean the same thing, but in general, um, the the crossover I'll use if I'm doing a bigger turn in powder and
Hmm.
I want a really powerful compression of the snow. I might use that. Whereas a most flex turn, I'm going to probably use those when the turns get smaller for me. So if I'm trying to really quickly steer my board, that means I'm going to steer it away from me and back underneath me. Whereas like if I'm trying to make a bigger turn, I might stay more on top of my snowboard, which would look more like a most extended turn.
I see. Makes sense.
Cool. Because the extension in a most flex turn, the extended part is through the control phase, right? And
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
extension, I'm gonna have a shorter control phase, but I'm gonna use the totality of the control phase to like press the surface together, like press a platform so that I can rebound into my next turn. And we're gonna see that right now from our next rider. So um, here it is.
Thanks.
So, and there are some follow-up questions right here. I'll get there in a second, but here's our next rider. So this is my good friend Kara. I'm gonna get right to hers. I'm just gonna play it because this is fun. Make this video a little bigger. So this is just us in 2020 riding some trees in Japan, right before the world shut down, literally right before COVID happened, like really happened big. This is right before that. It's kind of fun. So here's Kara. And if you watch her right here, she's going to do that movement we were talking about. So you're going to see her press her tail into the snow through an extension and then a retraction to go into the next turn, right? Now, I think we would call this potentially a most flex turn. We're going to see her do it again here. And then her edge change happens through a retraction a little bit and then a pressure. So here's me doing the same thing. And you can see some of them, my body goes up. I cross over the board. There's a retraction at the same time too. So it's a little bit of a hybrid. But you can see me driving through the tail. Driving through the tail. I have time driving through the tail. So I would say those are probably a little bit more of a most extended probably on my part. There was a retraction turn, but to see a max point, we kind of use both of them. So I'm going to get out of here, escape, go back to my worksheet. So I guess some questions for you guys, right? So we just watched some people creating rebound energy in a cloud. And so we're just focused on that right now. So just how the rebound energy was created, right? So for anybody, do the legs extend for both me or CMAX video? Do they extend together or independently? Anybody got an answer?
Jim, what do you think? I'm not sure.
Wait, say one more time, Josh. You said your legs and C-Max legs ski are
Yeah, yeah.
independently or some
So
C-Max,
do
I
the
would say, are certainly simultaneously. I'm not with the border. I've seen some different things with the way you do things. So maybe not so much with the board. Am I wrong?
okay. No, I think that when I watched CMAX video, and I stared at it quite a bit, when I watched him creating pressure, it wasn't the exact same off of both feet. I kind of watched CMAC extend one leg a little bit more than the other to create pressure. So it wasn't the same feet, both feet just pushing down the same. The outside ski would push down a little bit more under his body, and then that would create the pressure to rebound into the next turn, retract, and then he would set the next outside ski. So both skis would kind of settle in the same at the top of the next turn, and then he would push down a little bit harder on the outside ski to then create the rebound. And similar things happening here on our snowboarder. So if we watch our snowboarder, except it's not outside ski, it's nose and tail, we'll see our snowboarder here, right there, driving the tail down. So back foot
Mhm.
extension is independent.
Yes.
Yeah, of both feet. Yep.
And just as a point of again, I'm not to get in the weeds and be picky, but ideally, right. So when we talk about skiing on a platform, we talk about ideally trying to have close to equal pressure on both skis. Because if you, I mean, we're talking like 55-45, but you're when it comes down to being really technical, you're absolutely right. There's going to be more on that outside ski. Ideally, we want to keep it pretty close because if you had 100% on one ski and zero on the other, you're going to submarine.
Yeah.
Totally.
You're right.
Totally.
Yeah, but you're right. It's like is it ideally 50? No, it's not going to be. But you're right. There's going to be slightly more in the powder on the outside ski.
Well, especially if CMAC was to push both feet down at the same time, the same amount, then he's already weighted. Then that would be pushing his inside ski would actually end up deeper in the snow than his outside ski,
Yeah.
right?
I feel like
Yeah.
for the snowboarder, it's more like an active control. The boarder is pivoting and like more intentionally pivoting the board, but the skier seems like it's a passive, uh, like the more extension on the outside ski is like a passive effect because of the soft snow.
Yeah, I think when you watch CMAX, as he made his turn sharper, so as he wanted to cut the turn a little bit sharper, you could see a lot more active steering of the legs underneath the body right after those skis released. And then if you looked at the snowboarder, they wanted to. It was like almost like a speed check right into straight, right? So that was a big steering away speed check and then going back downhill, right? And we're going to get into that right here. So, um, but um, before I jump into steering in powder, before we get into that, because you're right onto our next thing, Tong. Um, After the skier, both the skier and the rider, you created that rebound energy through an extension of the back leg, right? They pushed the air out of the snow and they got a strong enough surface to push them back up or push their legs up to their body, whichever it would be. They got a strong enough surface. What do they do next? What do they do with their legs after that?
They get lower.
Yeah. So they once they pushed that surface, they created either CMAX head popped up or like Kara, her head didn't necessarily pop up, but she pushed her board away from herself. Right after that, they brought those legs right back to them, right?
Yeah.
And so why do you think they did that?
Um, I guess it feels natural, like piping on the pumping on a skateboard. Now why do they do that? I have no idea. Like, um,
So that
So
they
if you
can
think
have
about the snow work, yeah, go ahead.
the range of motion to start the next turn to extend
Totally.
again.
Yep. So it does a couple of things. So if I push my tail down in the snow and I'm pulling up my front foot, right? As soon as I push and I get that rebound, If I release that rebound, it does a couple of things. One, if I was to hold the rebound, eventually I'm either just going to plow snow downhill until I stop, or or I'm going to be tall and it's still going to push me forward. The ground's going to rebound back and I'm going to push forward. So what I'm trying to do is if I'm pushing my tail into the snow and my nose is up, I want to let go of that tail and bring my whole board to level, right? So level and on top of the snow again. So I'm in the snow and that retraction brings me out of the snow. So now I'm out and I can place my whole board back onto the snow again in a big fat base of support. So the whole skis or the whole snowboard is the best thing to support me on a soft surface, right? So I push to retract to land on a big fat platform, which brings me to my last question here. So when the skier or the rider was entering the new turn, so like if I was carving, I would enter a new turn and try to set a high edge angle, right? Like try to get there as fast as I could. But in powder riding, would you guys say they entered at a high edge angle or a low edge angle their next turn?
No.
Yeah, you can see it right here, and I'll expand this a little bit. You see? And as soon as I go into that next turn, hopefully we can see it. You'll see a really low edge angle, then to a higher one, really low edge angle, then to a higher one at the end of the turn. And then you can't see anything but a plume of snow. Yep. So entering into a really low edge angle. So when we think about POW, that's a big difference. So after we load the snowboard and we start the new turn, ideally we want to set up our base of support to be the whole bottom of our equipment. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah, cool.
Yes.
So the next part I was going to go into is steering the glide. And I think that this, when I'm riding powder, can be one of the most challenging parts is like timing it. So when I steer the glide, I'm going to go back to this clip right here, that I use a little bit of counter rotation in my riding to actually steer, to set myself up for my next turn. But I'm going to try to get right back to this clip right here. And actually, we can really see Kara do it. So I'm going to go up here to Kara's clip. So if we watch Kara right here, you're going to see that as she's pushing her board into the snow right here, as she's pushing down, she's also rotated her upper body. So her upper body's facing the next place she wants to go. So that's counter rotation because the board's steering uphill while the upper body steers in the opposite direction. So now she's set up, right? So these things are totally twisted. You guys see that?
Yeah.
Somebody. Okay. And then when she releases, it gives her board somewhere to go to match back up to her body, right? And so that rotation, very active counter rotation, was intentional to set her up for her next turn. Now, the trick to this one, the tricky part to this one, is that counter rotation can only happen when we have enough friction under our feet that our upper body can rotate opposite of our legs. Like we don't create tension in the core unless there's a surface underneath us that supports us creating tension, right? And so when I time these things, here I'm doing it. When I time these things, that counter rotation has to happen at the moment that I create the most pressure under my feet or under my back foot. So pressure, rotation, pressure, rotation, pressure, and rotation.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, it's kind of a trip, right? And so you always hear about these things like, oh, counter rotation's bad. Counter rotation isn't bad. Counter rotation is a tool that we can use. It's when we use it to the amount that's effective is when it can be a really good. Now here we're going to see a rider that might not use it so effectively. So here he's not really using a lot of counter rotation. He's kind of just riding the tail, right? That wasn't a very good clip. I apologize. So I'm going to exit out of here. But when we talk about so counter rotation, this is kind of
Hey,
a
Josh.
Yeah.
Josh, may I get a point of clarification? And I'm probably going to need CMAC to lobby in here. So, when you say counter rotation, it looks like in that one clip, the one before, I think it was Kara. I saw the shoulder kind of turning first, or am I mistaken there?
No, that's
And the reason why I wanted to bring this up for a point of discussion and
right here.
clarification, just very briefly, is because we call that upper body rotation. But you do get the same effect where, you have this simultaneous,
That's right there,
um,
simultaneous.
yeah, you use one to help get the other result. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
with higher level skiing, we try not to do that so much.
But there is a but. I agree, Jim. But in this case, in this snow, the snow tries to push you uphill. So you can use counter rotation to keep keep the legs turning more than the upper body. And we can do a little bit of upper body rotation also. So
Yeah,
that
no,
would
I see the effect.
yeah,
I see the outcome.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
But
it's
I
interesting
just
because
thought
these
I'd
are
bring that up because
Yeah, no, it's
we
good.
got a couple of interesting terms here, and they cross pollinate, but it's always good to discuss this just briefly.
yeah, and I guess a question for you guys. So if we ask that, so we talked about counter rotation. What challenge might the rider face if they didn't create a platform? So say they didn't create a platform to rebound, right? They didn't do that. They didn't extend their legs and create a platform for rebound. Then what kind of challenges? This is a kind of a fun one here, and we'll get back to the counter rotation part of this, but what kind of challenges might they face if they didn't create that platform? Anybody?
How about
I'm going to pull on somebody here. So how about Tyrus?
Sure. Can
So
you repeat the question?
yeah. So Tyrus, so say that rider was in the POW, right? And instead of like pushing the tail down, instead of doing that, they didn't do any of that, right? They just rode on their tail the whole way through and tried to make turns, right? What kind of what kind of challenges might the rider face if they don't actually compact the snow and create some rebound energy to get out of the snow?
Yeah, if you really create no platform at all, you're just going to sink into the snow and your
mhm.
snowboarding is done. Um,
Cool. And there's more to it too, right? There's more to it. So like if you think about the rider, they're gonna try to steer their board, right, in the snow, so steer it. So if they don't create a platform that they then bounce off of that releases their snowboard, right? That actual pivot of the snowboard is going to be really, really challenging because that tail is going to be in the snow. So not only is the whole board trying to pivot, like while you're weighted on the tail, so you have like a kind of like a not a great pivot point or an axis, but it's also going to be trying to push snow from the right to the left and back and forth. It's not going to like be very easy because you're in the snow, right? If we create some rebound energy, we release out, it allows our board to lift from the snow and gives it space and lightness so we can actually pivot the board or move it into our next turn. Now, do we
Yeah,
always want to do this? Not necessarily. If I'm riding a giant open bowl of POW and I don't have to, like, I can just arc giant turns and hang out on my tail, that's totally an option. But in Japan and in trees, it's usually not. You usually need to be able to release and make the next turn.
mm.
Um, Anything else that you would think about that one, Tyrus? Like if the didn't create rebound energy, what challenges they might face?
I mean, I don't have a whole lot to add, but I mean, the physics of it just is that you need a platform to push off of in some way in order to initiate the next turn.
Yeah,
Um, we have options that have been discussed already, right? You could push in such a way that the platform gets created and that sends your center of mass up, and that allows you to initiate a new turn in that way, right? By we'll say upland weighting, or maybe we want to say a crossover turn. Or you can push into the snow until you feel enough of a platform, and then you can retract and get your center of mass over the board, or we'll say get the board under the center of mass, if we want to describe it as a cross under turn. But in every case, if we don't have some way of getting the snow to push back on us, it's going to be very difficult to start a new turn.
Totally. Awesome. And how many times I've ridden with people and I've been teaching in powder, and that's been the biggest struggle, is getting into powder and feeling buried and just more and more and more buried and not being able to create that platform to get out of the snow. And then eventually that snow, they're in it and they're in it more, and that friction turns from not only friction underneath their snowboard, but friction in front of their body. And after a while, you're just pushing snow downhill with your entire body until your nose can no longer stay afloat from your tail and you just dive in and fall over, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to add a point that I think is a practical point, that the sort of like really technical stuff here, a practical point that stuff supports. If and when we're having trouble riding deep snow, whether it's POW, hot POW, bank, whatever, remembering that moving up and down is helpful, is a good thing to remember, because that's how we get the snow to give something back to us, is movement in what we might call the vertical plane.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's when we know, and I think that's the point that I hope resonates tonight. And I'm going to get into a little bit on trees and then I'll close out the call. So I know we're getting close to our hour. We'll be a little bit over, but not much. Is that if we understand in powder that we've got to push the air out of the snow, then our vertical has a reason. We know what we're trying to do and why. And then we also know that when we push the air out of the snow, that's also when we have the platform to set our body up to go into our next turn. And both those things have to happen simultaneously. And I think that in powder, to me, that's a challenge for me to teach sometimes. And I think it can be a challenge for comprehension, to like understand, what is this? Why is this different? So I want to go back to the video right here real quick, and I just want to show some stuff riding in trees. I'm going to ask you guys some questions. We're going to watch a couple of riders getting it right, and then a couple of riders getting it wrong. And the first question is for the riders who get it right, and I'm going to play the video here in a second. For the riders who get it right, what did they do to set themselves up to react to the trees, right? And for the riders who were less successful, what happened and why? So like when we think about trees, oftentimes the terrain itself, the trees dictate where our turns can be. And very seldom, and I'm speaking from experience, very seldom do I lay out a plan for my whole line and I execute it flawlessly. I would almost say never happens. Never happens. I'm reacting to what's in front of me, and I'm reacting in the moment to what's in front of me. And part of that's just time spent building up that skill methodically. But there's also some things in like body position and stuff like that we might be able to pull out of this video so we know what we're working towards and maybe not what we don't want to end up doing. So I'm going to play it really quick and see what you guys think. So I'm going to pass this. So it's kind of hard to see because I'm in the trees, very far in the trees, but you can see that I've got a lot of stuff I'm having to navigate around.
It was like a Bigfoot sighting in the woods.
I know, right?
Good one,
Josh,
Steve.
what's that?
I said good one. Yeah.
Does Josh, if I'm gone, I have a hard stop. I gotta.
Sure.
If I go, I have to go. Sorry.
No worries.
Yep. There. Boom.
Cool.
Where did you go?
There's one video. I did. I actually wrote it out. I went off about a 10-foot cliff and wrote it out. I was really happy with that run. Here's Kara on the same run. So we can watch Kara's movements a little bit, kind of see what she's doing that might lead to her success here, ability to react to all those changes. And so just going back to those two right there. So I'm going to play them one more time so we can see them. And here we go. Here's the Yeti sighting in the trees. Sorry, it's tough. I know it's a lot of trees, guys. I wish I had a better video, but this is what I have.
It's okay. Hey, we got to work with it.
You can really see that retraction from turn to turn there.
Yep.
And then here you can see full extension. Oh my God, here it goes. Ah,
Yeah. 10-footer. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Nice.
And then the same one. Here's Kara at speed again. Cool. Here she goes. And then I'm going to go ahead and stop that there. So can anybody tell me, like, we're just going to keep it on her smiling face. Can anybody tell me, out of those two riders, like what did you see that like maybe led to their success in those trees, them being able to manage all those different sticks and changes and things that they had to turn around? Anybody?
I think it's a lot of what we've discussed with, you know, the extension, flexion, but sort of like retraction as well. And it's all the things we've discussed. I'm not going to articulate this very well, but it's all the things we just discussed that help that allow you to be successful. Like the turn shape wasn't too sharp, where you're gliding through. There's a little porpoising with your extension and retraction and whatever you want to call it. But yeah,
Cool.
Um,
Anybody else have anything to add?
yeah, I want to add, and I don't know if it's correct or not, but I think I saw some very stable upper body. Like in terms of they don't go really crazy up and down. There's extension and flex, but uh, I didn't see I guess I didn't see people upper body going crazily in the air kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that's something that I really latched onto as well, is that I saw in these riders, I mean, myself being one of them, I saw that in general, both me and Kara, we tended to keep our upper body in a relatively stable plane. So like even through the counter rotation, it was just enough to point downhill in some of those turns. And then usually there was always a reset to bring in the lead shoulder in the direction of travel, wherever that would be. And so that was you always see that the body is lined up primarily in the direction of travel. Now that might be across the hill if I'm going that way, not if my board's pointing that way, but if I'm going that way, that might be across the hill. But you're right, a really, really stable upper body. And it doesn't mean it's static, because we already talked about how counter rotation works in this, right? So the board turns one way, the body can turn the other. But we can see that the upper body always kind of has a purpose, right? It's guiding into the next move. And so we're going to watch some riders that don't get it as well. So here we go. Okay, there's one. I'm going to go past this. Here's another one. Sorry, it's super slow-mo. I didn't intend for this to be so slow-mo, but it's playing very slow. Let's see what we can find out about her. And so Rong Shuen, I think to your point, we can see right here in the riders that don't get it so good, that their upper body doesn't necessarily have a purpose. So they're trying to maintain balance, but their upper body is behind their lower body in a way. Would you guys agree? What you see right there? And here's
Yeah.
our
So,
last
yeah.
rider right here.
Many body movements are more like reaction to the imbalance.
Exactly. Yep. Their reaction to the imbalance and their you see it right here too. So right there, that rider, same thing. They created they came down to the trees, and when it came time to stop, so they're riding okay, big retraction. When it came time to stop, their whole body squared up, no counter rotation. They just sat down, right? And that was just a tiny flip, just kind of fun. So if we think about, I'm going to exit out of this. So if we're looking at like when it comes to things that we need to practice to be able to like ride trees to be successful in these trees, is that we have to get to a place where we can push the board down to the snow, create that porpoise activity, get our upper body to be set up for our next turn predictably. And those two things are going to allow us to give us the chance to be able to get into the trees and react accordingly. And sometimes we're just going to have to get it wrong a bunch until we start getting it right. I think my best bet when I'm training people to ride trees and specifically to ride powder in Japan, one of the things that we do is we bite off a couple of turns of our best laid plans, and then we bring it to a controlled stop with our body pointing downhill, whether it be on our toe side or our heel side, we go to a controlled stop with our upper body leading downhill. And then we do it again. We go from 2 turns to 3 turns and so on and so forth. That's kind of one of the ways I build up to it. So I've got a bunch more on here, but I'm not going to belabor it too far. Before I break for this, does anybody have any questions about what we went over tonight about like riding POW? We have a few elements right here, pressure control, supporting surface, turning power, but I'm going to open it up to your questions from what you saw.
Continuing
Yeah,
on
mine
the
along the way.
upper body um, topic, um, when you're in powder, do you tend to create a lot of inclination with your upper body? I
No.
assume no, but yeah, just want to check it.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. If I can, if the surface will support it and I have the space for it, heck yeah. But if the usually, especially in trees, if I try to inclinate a lot, it's going to be really hard for me to recover from that in a small space, right? It's going to be less predictable. So, in trees, not so much. In open bowl, and if I can, if the snow will support it, yeah, I'll inclinate.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. I like it. I like it. Anybody else in the call? Anything anybody wants to add or whatever? All right. Well, I'll leave it there then. So the last thing I want for you guys is if any of this was inspiring or you have more questions, if you have more questions, please feel free to hit me up. I'm going to make sure if you're not already getting emails, I'm going to try to make sure you are getting emails, Jim. And if
I just looked, I did get, and I thought I got an email from you, and I did on the last session on the carving. So my apologies for that. I did get it. I just didn't
awesome.
realize that I just didn't see the link to like go and review what was recorded. That's I guess where I was going with it. So my apologies for the lack of clarification on my part. I just didn't see a link on this where we could go and access the recording.
All good. Well, now you got it, and you'll get another follow-up email after this one that has the new link to tonight's recording. It'll have all the
See
good
it now.
stuff in there.
Yeah,
And a
that's on
link
me.
to
I
this.
see it now. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I guess if there's no other questions or anything, if you guys come up with anything, if anybody does have something that sparked your interest, you didn't quite understand, and it's okay, this was a lot, please feel free to follow up with me directly because I want this stuff to make sense. That's why I'm doing these tech talks. Is I'm hoping to get us excited for a season full of fluffy turns and all sorts of goodness, and get our brains going. If you would like, we also run a couple of sessions. And I think that one of the cool things about riding powder, one is it's like very special when it happens, right? So when you get a chance to actually ride untouched snow, that's a really, really special thing. And so being prepared to be ready when that happens, the best you can be, I think is it lends itself to those big powder days, not just being a dig yourself out fest, but like a really, really memorable experience. It could be the icing on the top of your entire season. Other thing that I think is really cool about riding powder is that in terms of riding, there's like an art to it. but it makes us blend and really ride in 3 dimensions. If you think about your board pressing into the snow and how you're moving snow underneath your body into different shapes, that to me is really unique. And it only happens when the snow's deep enough, and it only happens when it's clean enough that you really get to decide where to create those rebound forces, where to pack the snow and push off of it. And I think that that's one of the things that powder riding, if you get a chance to do it, and if you train to it, it really does make you a better skier or a better snowboarder, because it blends everything we know how to do and puts it in 3 dimensions where you're working in snow as well as on top of it, and then reacting also, because it usually happens in the trees and off piste, also reacting to all these external forces, or else these external things like rocks and stumps and maybe what's under the snow that you can't see. So if you guys are interested in joining a session, we have our Japan session, which is coming up in February, February 1st to the 10th. And we visit up to 7 resorts. If you're an Icon Pass holder, there's a discount. It's probably the coolest thing that I plan all year. The most dynamic thing, anyways, the most dynamic thing I plan. And then we also do a session, if you can't travel abroad, we do a session in Japan as well. Rongshuen, you've been to our session in Japan, so you know what that, or sorry, in Utah, and you know what that's like. But we're usually blessed with pretty good snow when we go there, and it's a pretty good opportunity to not only learn how to ride powder through trees and feel some lighter snow, because Utah is also known for really light and fluffy snow. But we also do a little intro to backcountry as well in that session. So that's what I have for tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my share here and see if that works. Stop sharing. Okay. And if y'all look at the chat, it has the Tech Talk Tuesday. I'm going to post it one more time, so that way everybody has it. So this has the PDF that we worked off of tonight, and it has like all the clips. So it has hyperlinks to all the clips. So if you want to watch them again, dive in, answer the questions for yourself, it's all there. But that's what I have, guys. And so thank you so much for attending. If you guys want to unshow yourselves and wave goodbye, or unmute yourself and say goodbye, that's what I got. And thank you again.
Thank you,
Thank you
Josh.
so much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks
for
a
the
bunch.
message.
Great session.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, guys, have a good night.
Good night to you. Bye.
Good night.
Good night. Good stuff, Josh. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
See you
I felt
soon,
like I
brother.
was. Thank you. See you soon.
Yeah.